$500,000. The auctioneer's voice rang through Christie's auction hall. The room erupted. Gasps, phones rising to capture the screen, a painting of soldiers in the night, jazz instruments gleaming under streetlights. In the third row, Gwendolyn Pembroke froze. Her champagne flute stopped halfway to her lips. She knew that frame. Her eyes swept the room, landed on a figure at the back wall. An older black man in army dress uniform, greens creased sharp, brass polished, ribbons on his chest, a purple heart among them. Pembroke leaned toward her companion. Her whisper carried. "That's the garbage collector from my street." The woman's eyebrows lifted. "Here?" "Probably thinks they're hiring." Pembroke's smile was thin, sharp. Laughter rippled through their row. Other voices joined. "Is that a janitor? How'd he even get in? Someone check his invitation." Isaiah heard every word. His hands stayed clasped behind his back, eyes forward, the way the drill sergeant taught him when he enlisted, older than most recruits. But the factory had closed, and his family needed to eat. On the screen, the painting glowed. Midnight in Harlem by Luther Brooks, 1925. Black soldiers returning from WWI, playing jazz on a street corner. Men who'd fought for a country that barely claimed them. Isaiah knew that weight. Different war. Same burden. The auctioneer continued. "This piece comes through emergency acquisition filing. Recently discovered, authenticated by the Metropolitan Museum." Pembroke's face drained of color. She gripped her armrest. Isaiah lifted his right hand, placed it at the brim of his service cap, held the salute. The room went quiet. Not respectful quiet. Confused quiet. A man behind Isaiah muttered, "Is this performance art?" Isaiah didn't lower his hand. The salute was for the soldiers in that painting. For every man who wore the uniform and came home to find the war hadn't ended. It had just changed battlefields. They mocked him, called him trash. But this garbage man is about to teach them the most expensive lesson they've ever learned. Watch till the end. Type Amen if you believe God sees what people throw away. 72 hours earlier, Isaiah sat at the kitchen table, the envelope in his hands. Red letters, final notice, property tax assessment amount. Due, 15400 due date, December 24th, 72 hours, property subject to seizure. The coffee Beatrice made had gone cold. Outside, December sun climbed over roof lines, indifferent to the numbers on the page. Rezoning, they called it. Development. The neighborhood was improving, which meant people who'd lived here for decades didn't fit the vision anymore. He'd called the county yesterday. The assessment was legal. No extensions for amounts over $10,000. He'd called the credit union this morning. "I'm sorry, Mr. Patterson. With your income level, we can't approve $15,000 unsecured. Garbage collector for the city, pension from military service, after bills, food, gas, helping his daughter with her kids. Nothing left. Certainly not $15,000 in 2 days." Isaiah pushed back from the table, walked to the bedroom. The top drawer opened with a familiar scrape. Folded undershirts, socks in a row, and beneath them, the Purple Heart. Purple ribbon, gold profile of Washington. For military merit, Kuwait 1993, peacekeeping rotation, IED on a supply route. Shrapnel caught his left side while he was pulling a younger soldier from the blast. Isaiah picked up the medal, so light for something that cost so much. The tax notice lay beside it. He'd hidden it there before Beatrice woke. This was his mission now. Hold the position. Protect what mattered. 48 hours. Footsteps creaked behind him. Baby? Beatrice stood in the doorway, reading glasses on a chain around her neck. Church sweater, burgundy, small cross embroidered on the pocket. She looked at the open drawer, at his hand holding the medal, at his face. Decades of marriage taught you when your husband was carrying weight he wouldn't share yet. You'll tell me when you're ready. Not a question. She crossed the room. Her hand covered his on the drawer's edge, not comforting, but steadying, soldier to soldier. We're a team, Isaiah, whatever it is. He nodded, couldn't speak yet. She squeezed his hand once, firm, sure, then stepped back. Breakfast is on the stove. Grits are getting cold. She left him there. She wasn't letting it go. She was giving him space to find his footing before they faced it together. That was how they'd survived, knowing when to push and when to wait. Isaiah closed the drawer. The metal disappeared beneath cotton and flannel. In the kitchen, bacon smell mixed with winter air through the cracked window. He followed Beatrice, mind turning over numbers that wouldn't add up. Outside, his work truck sat in the driveway. City logo on the door. Sanitation services. He'd drive it in 3 hours, lifting bins in the pre-dawn cold while people slept in heated houses. Honest work, hard work, work that wouldn't save his home in 2 days. But Isaiah had learned something in the desert, pulling that kid from smoke while metal shrieked and blood ran hot. You don't quit when the mission looks impossible. You find another way. He just had to figure out what that way was. The clock on the wall ticked forward. 47 hours, 58 minutes, 46 hours before the auction. Gwendolyn Pembrooke stood in what used to be her father's study. The movers had already taken the desk. The bookshelves were empty, contents boxed for donation. Downsizing, her estate planner called it. At 74, living alone in a house this size was more burden than blessing. The stairs hurt her knees. The heating bills were obscene. Her son lived in California and visited twice a year. She was tired. Gwendolyn lifted a black and white photograph from the mantel. Her father in his army uniform, olive drab, Korean War. Sergeant Arthur Pembroke, 1952. She'd been 2 when this photo was taken, 3 when the telegram arrived. She'd spent more than 70 years trying to remember his voice. Never could. Ma'am? The lead mover stood in the doorway. What about these? He gestured to a corner. A cardboard box, a wooden flag case, a painting thick with dust. Gwendolyn set the photograph down. He gave everything to this country. Her voice was flat. Left me with a folded flag. My mother worked herself to death by 58. That's what his service bought us. She picked up the flag case. Triangular glass, flag folded inside. Her father's name on a plaque. Sergeant Arthur Pembroke, 1928 to 1953, 25 years old when he died. She'd kept this on her mantel for decades, dusted it, showed it to guests, but a flag didn't raise a child, didn't pay rent, didn't hold you when you cried. Gwendolyn dropped it in the box. The painting leaned against the wall. Some old thing her mother bought at an estate sale in the 60s. Paid $30 for it because she liked the carved wooden frame. Planned to replace the canvas with something nicer. Never did. Gwendolyn had never even looked at what was painted on it. Just dust and cracked varnish. She added it to the box. The photograph went in last. Take it to the curb, Garbage pickup is this afternoon. Ma'am, some of this might be. I'm sure. The mover nodded, lifted the box. Gwendolyn walked to the window, snow falling outside. She didn't watch as he carried it away. Isaiah's shift ended at 3. He drove home in his '98 Chevy, rust along the wheel wells, passenger door held shut with a bungee cord. But it ran. He took the long way through Pembroke Lane. Waste of gas, but it was December 20th. Beatrice liked hearing about the Christmas lights. That's when he saw the box at the curb. 4487 Pembroke Lane, the big colonial with the stone lions. Isaiah slowed. Something in the box caught the fading light. He pulled over, stepped out into the cold. Snow had started collecting on the box's contents. Isaiah crouched, lifted out a flag case, glass front, American flag folded into a triangle, 13 folds, military precision. The plaque, Sergeant Arthur Pembroke, 1928-1953, Korea. Isaiah's jaw tightened. You didn't throw this away. You didn't put a burial flag on the curb like it was trash. This flag had covered a coffin. Someone handed this to a widow, a child. Isaiah had been at those ceremonies, had watched families receive these flags, had seen the way mothers held them like they were holding their sons one last time. He looked at the house. Big, dark, warm light in one upstairs window. Someone in there had decided this flag, this man's life, was garbage. Isaiah felt heat rise in his chest. Not just sadness, anger. These people. They lived in houses like castles, drove cars worth more than his annual salary, and they threw away what mattered like it was nothing. Wasteful. Ungrateful. He looked back in the box, the photograph, the sergeant, young, alive, and a painting, large, frame cracked but solid wood. Good craftsmanship. The kind you could sand down, refinish. Isaiah lifted the frame, testing its weight. Sturdy, heavy, the kind of wood that didn't come cheap. He thought, this frame's worth $20 at least. Maybe Beatrice could use it for family photos, or I could clean it up, sell it, and if he couldn't sell it, he'd find another use. That's what you did when you didn't have money to waste. You saw value in what others threw away. Isaiah carried the box to his truck, set the flag case on the passenger seat, secured it with the bungee cord. The painting and photograph went in the bed, covered with his tarp. This wasn't stealing. He'd learned that the hard way years ago when some rich guy threatened to call the cops after Isaiah took aluminum cans from his recycling bin. The officer who responded explained it simple. Anything on a public curb is abandoned property, legal to take. Isaiah had never forgotten. He climbed into the truck, started the engine. In his mirror, 4487 Pembroke Lane disappeared behind falling snow. Inside that house, Gwendolyn Pembroke poured wine and didn't look out the window. She didn't see the old Chevy driving away with her father's flag riding safe in the cab. 45 hours until the auction. Isaiah drove through the snow, the flag case beside him. He'd find a proper place for it. A sergeant deserved that much, even if his own daughter didn't think so. Isaiah pulled into the driveway at 4:30. The porch light was on. Always was when Beatrice knew he was coming home. He killed the engine, sat looking at the flag case on the passenger seat. I'll find you a good place, Sergeant. He grabbed the painting from the truck bed. The frame was heavier than expected. Solid oak, hand-carved. The front door opened before he reached it. Beatrice stood there, arms crossed, not angry, worried. Baby, we need to talk. Isaiah's stomach dropped. On the kitchen table, the tax notice, unfolded, red letters screaming. Isaiah set the painting against the wall. Beatrice, $15,000, 2 days. She wasn't asking. And you were going to handle it alone? He nodded. Couldn't look at her. After all these years, still no anger, just hurt. I didn't want you to worry. Isaiah. She took his hands. Her palms were warm from washing dishes. I've been worrying since the day I married you. That's what love is. He met her eyes. We're a team. You don't fight alone. Something in his chest loosened. I don't know what to do, he admitted. Called everyone. No time, no money. Beatrice squeezed his hands. Then we figure it out together. She looked past him, saw the painting. Her face tightened. You brought home more trash. Isaiah turned. It's not. The frame's solid oak. Clean it up, might get $20, $30 at the flea market. $20. Her voice was flat. We need 15,000. I know, but it's something. He walked to the painting. Better than nothing. Beatrice stared at him, then sighed. All right, let's see what you got. She fetched warm water and rags. They knelt in the living room. Careful with the wood, Isaiah said. Beatrice dipped her rag, started at the top corner. The first stroke revealed color, deep blue. Huh, there's paint under here. Isaiah worked from the other side. More blue, gold, the curve of a face. They worked in silence. 10 minutes of wiping away decades of dust. Then they both stopped. The painting showed a street at night. Harlem, maybe. Streetlights glowing gold against cobalt sky. And soldiers, black soldiers in WWI uniforms, holding instruments. Trumpet, saxophone, drum, playing jazz while people gathered to listen. The soldiers' faces were tired. Proud. Home, but not quite home. Beatrice sat back. Lord have mercy. Isaiah leaned closer. Bottom right corner, L. Brooks, 25. Who's L? Brooks, Beatrice whispered. Isaiah shook his head. Don't know. But he couldn't look away from those faces. He knew those expressions. Had worn them himself coming back from Kuwait. Men who'd done what their country asked, survived, came home to find the war had just changed shape. The 369th, Beatrice said, pointing to a shoulder patch. Harlem Hellfighters? Isaiah nodded. My grandfather told me about them. Fought in France, came home to parades, then to Jim Crow. France gave them medals, America gave them nothing. Different war than his, same weight. Isaiah. Beatrice's voice was soft. This isn't junk. He looked at her. This is someone's heart on canvas. Isaiah reached out, touched the edge gently. The paint was thick, layered. Someone had taken time with this, had tried to capture not just what these soldiers looked like, but what they felt. He thought about the house on Pembrooke Lane, about someone deciding this piece of someone's soul was garbage, about the flag case in his truck, about Sergeant Arthur Pembroke, who died at 25, about how some people threw away what mattered because they couldn't see past their own pain. Isaiah looked at the painting, at the soldiers playing jazz in the night, and he understood something. Beatrice. His voice was quiet. Look at them. She did. Someone painted this, put their whole heart into it. Then someone else threw it away, left it on a curb like it was nothing. He touched the canvas again, but it was never nothing. It was always this, beautiful, important. It just needed someone to see it. Beatrice watched him. Isaiah smiled, small, wondering. God doesn't make junk. He only makes masterpieces waiting to be found. The words came out simple, not preach, just truth. Beatrice looked at the painting, at her husband, back to the painting. We need to find out what this is worth. Isaiah thought about the tax notice. 43 hours, $15,000. About how God worked in ways you didn't expect, through garbage trucks and curbs and stubborn old men who couldn't leave a flag behind. Professor Aris, Isaiah said. From the VA group, he taught art history. Beatrice stood, offered her hand, pulled him up. Call him first thing tomorrow. Isaiah nodded. The soldiers in the painting looked back at him, still playing, still proud, still waiting to be seen. Thank you, Isaiah whispered. To Luther Brooks, to whoever painted this, to God for putting it in his path. Outside, snow fell. 43 hours until Christmas Eve. 43 hours until they lost everything. But tonight, a painting glowed under lamplight in their small living room. A masterpiece. Waiting. 41 hours before the auction. Isaiah woke at 5. Couldn't sleep anyway. He dressed in his church suit, navy, from 1998. White shirt Beatrice had ironed. His dress shoes were old but polished. He looked respectable. Almost. Beatrice wrapped the painting in newspaper, 3 layers thick. Snow's coming, she said. This'll keep it dry. She handed him the package. What if it's worth something? Isaiah nodded, kissed her forehead, stepped into the cold. Julian Fine Art Gallery sat on Morrison Street, where shops had French names and parking took credit cards. Isaiah parked 2 blocks away, carried the painting through snow that soaked his shoes in 30 seconds. The gallery door was glass and chrome. A sign. By appointment, only Isaiah pushed anyway. A bell chimed. The interior was white. Everything white. Art hung with space between pieces like they needed room to breathe. A man looked up, mid-30s, black turtleneck, thin silver glasses, Julian. His eyes traveled from Isaiah's face to his shoes, wet, cracked leather. We're not open to walk-ins. I have a painting. Isaiah lifted the package. I need someone to look at it. Julian glanced at his watch. I have a client arriving in 5 minutes. I can't. Please, just look. We don't appraise flea market finds. Julian's voice stayed polite, firm. You'll need to try somewhere else. The bell chimed again. Gwendolyn Pembrooke entered with another woman. Shopping bags, camel cashmere coat, boots that left no wet marks. Julian's face changed, brightened. Mrs. Pembroke, right on time. Gwendolyn stopped, saw Isaiah. Her eyes went to the newspaper package, wrinkled, tape coming loose. She recognized him, the garbage man, from her street. Julian, darling, her voice carried. Is everything all right? Perfectly fine. This gentleman was just leaving. Gwendolyn walked closer, looked Isaiah up and down. I know you. You collect my trash on Thursdays. Isaiah said nothing. What are you doing here? She gestured at the package. Trying to sell something you found in someone's garbage? Her companion laughed softly. Ma'am, I just need... An appraisal? Gwendolyn turned to Julian. For trash wrapped in newspaper? Julian moved toward Isaiah. Sir, I need you to leave now. Mrs. Pembroke has an appointment. Isaiah looked down. His shoes had left wet prints on white tile, dark, spreading spots. Gwendolyn's voice had edges now. Take your garbage somewhere else. You're making a mess. Isaiah looked up, met her eyes. Saw nothing. No memory of the flag he'd saved. No thought of her father. Just contempt for old shoes and newspaper packages. I'm sorry, Isaiah said quietly. I didn't mean to intrude. He turned toward the door. Wait! Julian pressed a button. Security will escort you. A young guard appeared, uncomfortable but professional. This way, sir. Behind him, Gwendolyn. Honestly, Julian, you need better door locks. Laughter followed Isaiah outside. He stood on the sidewalk, snow falling harder. The package felt heavier now. His reflection stared back from the gallery window, small, out of place among glass and chrome and people who belonged. For a moment, Isaiah felt the weight of it all. The rejection, the shoes leaving marks, being escorted out like he was dangerous. His arms tightened around the painting, not dropping it, not leaving it. If anything, holding it closer. He thought of the soldiers' faces under the dust, of how someone had painted them with care, with love, of how they'd been thrown away once already. He wouldn't do that to them again. Isaiah shifted the package, protected it from the snow with his body. Professor Aris, the VA center, that's where he'd go. He walked toward his truck, shielding the painting like it was something alive, something that depended on him. Behind the gallery window, Gwendolyn Pembroke pointed at something on Julian's tablet. Expensive art she'd glance at twice and forget. She had no idea what she'd thrown away, what she'd just turned from her door. Isaiah climbed into his truck, set the painting carefully on the passenger seat, started the engine. His phone buzzed, a text from Beatrice. How'd it go? He didn't answer yet, couldn't find the words. Outside, Morrison Street gleamed with money and snow and people who never had to wrap their hopes in newspaper. Isaiah pulled away from the curb. The painting rode beside him, still wrapped, still protected, still waiting for someone who could see. 39 hours until Christmas Eve. 39 hours to find that someone. 37 hours before the auction. Gwendolyn Pembroke sat among moving boxes when the doorbell rang. Marcus Webb, her estate attorney, stood on the porch. Briefcase, professional smile. Mrs. Pembroke, final insurance inventory before we close your mother's policy. She let him in. They moved to her father's empty study. Marcus opened his briefcase, thick folder of papers. I need to verify all listed items. He flipped pages, stopped. The Luther Brooks painting, Midnight in Harlem. Current insured value, $1.2 million. The room tilted. I'm sorry, what? Your mother's collection policy. You've been auto-renewing it since she passed. Marcus consulted notes. This piece was authenticated by Sotheby's in 1986. Your mother acquired it for $30 at an estate sale in '65. Didn't realize what it was until the appraisal. Gwendolyn's mouth went dry. She'd never read the policy details. Just signed the renewal forms every year. Kept paying because that's what you did with inherited paperwork. Where is it currently stored? She saw it. The dusty painting in the cardboard box. The carved frame. The canvas she'd never looked at. The painting she'd put on the curb 3 days ago. And the garbage man at the gallery yesterday, holding something wrapped in newspaper. It was stolen. The lie came automatic. Self-preservation. Marcus's pen stopped. When? 3 days ago, I just discovered it missing. Better to be a victim than admit she'd thrown away $1 million. The insurance wouldn't pay for negligence. Her reputation would be destroyed. The garbage collector, she added quickly. He had access. I saw him at a gallery yesterday trying to sell something. Marcus was already dialing. LAPD art theft. Within minutes, Midnight in Harlem was flagged as stolen across every art database in the country. Same time. Riverside VA Assisted Living. Professor Aris held the magnifying glass over the painting's signature. His hands trembled, not from age, but excitement. Isaiah. His voice shook. Do you understand what this is? Isaiah sat across from him. You said Luther Brooks. One of maybe 40 pieces he painted before dying at 32 in 1928, lost to history. Aris's eyes were wet. This is like finding a lost Langston Hughes poem. Our history. Our story. How much is it worth? Aris laughed. Awe, not humor. A Brooks half this size sold for $980,000 in 2015. Isaiah's chest tightened. This could save everything. I'm calling Elena Martinez, Metropolitan Museum curator. Aris dialed, put it on speaker. 2 rings. Professor Aris. Elena, I need you at Riverside immediately. I have a Luther Brooks. Previously unknown. Museum quality. Silence. I'll be there in 40 minutes. Aris ended the call, looked at Isaiah. She's the best. His phone buzzed. Text alert. Then another. 3 more in rapid succession. Aris's face changed as he opened his email. No. What? Aris turned the phone. Art loss register alert stolen. Midnight in Harlem. Luther Brooks, 1925, reported stolen. 487 Pembroke Lane. Report filed December 20th, 2025, 2:47 p.m. Contact LAPD art theft. If located, Isaiah's blood went cold. She reported it stolen, Aris said quietly. The woman who threw it away is calling you a thief. Isaiah couldn't speak. If police find this in your possession... Aris didn't finish. Isaiah looked at the painting, at soldiers who'd waited a century to be seen. What do I do? Aris's jaw set, his hand steadied. You're holding our people's soul, but they're making you a criminal. He met Isaiah's eyes. We fight back, fast. His phone rang. Elena. Elena, there's been a complication. I saw the alert. Is this the same painting? Yes, but it's not stolen. It was abandoned, legally salvaged from a public curb. Can he prove that? Aris looked at Isaiah. Can you? Isaiah thought. No witnesses, just me. Late afternoon, no one around. Elena's voice came through. That's a problem. Her word against his. She's wealthy, connected. He's a black garbage collector. Aris finished. I know how this looks. Silence on the line. Then Elena. There's one option. Emergency acquisition through the museum. We can file to claim it as abandoned cultural property before her lawyers get involved. But it's risky, expensive, and we need 48 hours minimum. Isaiah checked his watch. I have 36 hours before I lose my house. Then we move now, Elena said. I'm on my way. Professor, start documentation. Photographs, provenance, everything. She hung up. Aris looked at Isaiah. This is war now. Legal war. Are you ready? Isaiah thought of Beatrice, of their home, of the tax notice on the kitchen table, of the soldiers in this painting who'd fought battles on 2 fronts, one overseas, one at home. I didn't steal this, he said quietly. I saved it. I know. Aris squeezed his shoulder. Now we prove it. Outside, snow continued falling. 36 hours until Christmas Eve. 36 hours until the police came looking, or until justice found its way home. 34 hours before the auction. Elena Martinez's office sat on the 3rd floor of the Metropolitan Museum's administrative wing. Small, efficient. Walls covered with authentication certificates and photographs of recovered artwork. Isaiah stood by the window while Elena worked her laptop. Professor Aris sat in the corner chair, fingers drumming his knee. Elena's face tightened as she read. There it is. She turned the screen. Art loss register. Active alert status. Stolen flag level. Red. Contact law enforcement. Isaiah's reflection stared back from the dark window. Mrs. Pembroke filed at 2:47 p.m. yesterday, Elena said. LAPD art theft has the case number. She closed the laptop, looked at Isaiah. I've prepared the emergency acquisition petition like we discussed, but we have a problem. She moved faster than expected. That red flag means every gallery, auction house, and museum in the country now sees this painting as stolen property. Can we still file? Aris asked. Yes, but the risk just doubled. Elena pulled a folder from her drawer. If the commission sides with her, if they believe her theft claim, Mr. Patterson loses everything, the painting, the filing fee, and he'll still face criminal charges. She spread documents on the desk. The petition hearing is Christmas Eve morning, ruling same day if we're lucky. Your house payment is due when? Midnight, December 24th. Elena pushed a form across the desk. Emergency filing fee, $500, non-refundable. Isaiah stared at the number. $500. The emergency fund he and Beatrice had scraped together over 3 years. $50 here, $20 there. Birthday money not spent, Christmas bonuses saved, their last buffer against disaster. If this doesn't work, Elena said quietly, that money's gone. Mrs. Pembroke's lawyers will come after you. You could lose the house, face charges, everything. I could lose everything anyway. Isaiah's voice was steady. Aris stood. Isaiah, maybe. No. Isaiah pulled his wallet from his jacket. Old leather, soft from years in his pocket. Inside, 5 $100 bills, folded tight. He'd withdrawn it yesterday morning, before he knew about any of this. Emergency money, just in case. His hands didn't shake as he counted the bills onto Elena's desk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each bill a memory. Beatrice's birthday dinner we didn't have. The water heater we fixed ourselves. The grandkids' Christmas presents we made instead of bought. The vacation we never took. The doctor visits we delayed. $500. Everything they had left. Elena's phone buzzed. She glanced at it. Isaiah, Beatrice is calling you. Isaiah pulled out his phone. 3 missed calls in the last 10 minutes. He answered. Baby, I'm... Isaiah. Her voice cracked. Come home, please. What happened? A detective called. Said they're opening an investigation. Art theft. They want to talk to you. She was crying now. Soft, trying to hold it together. Baby, I'm scared. Isaiah closed his eyes. Behind him, Elena was already typing. Standard intimidation. They're trying to spook him. But Isaiah wasn't listening to Elena. He was listening to Beatrice, crying because of him, because of a painting he'd pulled from a curb. I'm coming home, he said. No. Beatrice's voice steadied. Caught. No. You finish what you started. You didn't steal anything. Don't you dare act like you did. Isaiah opened his eyes. We've been poor before, Beatrice continued. We've been scared before, but we've never been thieves, and we're not starting now. Her voice strengthened. You hear me, Isaiah Patterson? You do what's right. He heard everything she wasn't saying. I trust you. I believe you. We're in this together. Yes, ma'am, he whispered. She hung up. Isaiah turned back to the desk. The $500 sat there, wrinkled, worn, real. Elena watched him, waiting. Isaiah pushed the money across the desk. File it. Elena nodded once. She pulled the form closer, began filling it out. Once I submit this, there's no going back. Her lawyers will come at you hard. Let them come. Elena finished the form, slid it to him. "Sign here." Isaiah took the pen. His hand was steady. He signed his name. Elena took the form. The money fed everything into a folder marked urgent. "The petition goes to the commission tonight. I'll call in every favor I have." She met his eyes. "But prepare for war, Mr. Patterson. They're going to try to break you." Isaiah nodded. Thought of boot camp, of Kuwait, of pulling that kid from fire while shrapnel tore through his side. "I've been through worse," he said quietly. But even as he said it, looking at those $500 bills disappearing into Elena's briefcase, he wondered if that was true. 33 hours until Christmas Eve. 33 hours until everything either saved itself or fell apart. Outside Elena's window, Los Angeles glittered. Millions of lights, millions of people going home to houses they owned, to lives they controlled. Isaiah walked toward the elevator with Aris beside him. His wallet was empty now, his last defense gone. But his signature was on that form. His truth was filed. And somewhere in the city, Gwendolyn Pembrooke had no idea what was coming. Falsely accused, almost broken. But this veteran just bet everything on one truth. God doesn't let honest men fight alone. If you believe in justice, type Amen and watch what happens next, the night before the auction. Isaiah stood before the bedroom closet, past the work clothes and church suits, to the garment bag in the back corner, the army dress uniform. He hadn't worn it in 5 years, not since the Veterans Day ceremony. Before that, another 3 years. It got harder each time. The uniform fit differently, a body that had aged while the fabric stayed the same. But tomorrow wasn't about fit. Isaiah unzipped the bag. The smell hit him first, mothballs and memories. The fabric was dark green, Army Class A, the kind they didn't issue anymore. He lifted it out carefully, laid it on the bed, the jacket, the pants, the black tie, the service cap, and pinned to the breast, the ribbons, Purple Heart, National Defense Service Medal, Kuwait Liberation Medal. Each one a moment he'd survived. Footsteps in the hallway. Beatrice appeared in the doorway. She saw the uniform spread on the bed and went very still. "You're wearing that?" Not a question. "Yes, ma'am." She moved into the room, stood beside him, looking down at the green fabric. "Why?" Isaiah touched the Purple Heart ribbon. "Because tomorrow, they're going to see a garbage man, an old man, someone who doesn't belong." He looked at her. "I need them to see a soldier." Beatrice's eyes were wet, but she didn't cry. She nodded once. "Then we get you ready." She touched his hand, squeezed it. They stood there together in the quiet, the uniform between them like a bridge to who he'd been and who he still was. Outside, snow continued falling. 6 hours before the auction. Isaiah woke before the alarm. December cold seeped through the window. He showered, shaved carefully. The mirror showed a man preparing for battle. In the bedroom, Beatrice was already awake. She'd laid out the uniform, pressed, perfect. Isaiah pulled on the pants, the jacket. Everything felt familiar and foreign at once. Muscle memory and time's passage fighting each other. He stood before the mirror. The jacket hung differently now. Time had reshaped him. Beatrice stepped behind him. Her reflection appeared beside his. "Turn around." He did. She picked up the black tie. Her fingers moved with practiced efficiency. Over, under, through. The same pattern she'd tied decades ago when he came home on leave and they got married at the courthouse. Her hands didn't shake. The fear from yesterday was gone, replaced by purpose. She pulled the knot tight, adjusted his collar. Her fingers smoothed the fabric at his shoulders. Then she touched the ribbons, one by one. Purple Heart, National Defense, Kuwait Liberation. Her fingertips traced each ribbon like she was reading Braille, the sand, the blood, the boy he'd pulled from fire. "You carried all of this," she whispered, "and you never put it down. Had to keep going." "I know." She looked up at him. "But today, you're not just carrying it. You're showing it." Beatrice picked up the service cap, placed it on his head, adjusted the angle until it sat exactly right. She stepped back, looked at him. The man in the mirror stood taller now. The uniform might hang differently, but the bearing was the same. Shoulders back, chin level, eyes forward. A soldier. "You look like the day I met you," Beatrice said quietly, "standing at that bus stop in your greens." Isaiah smiled. "You gave me directions anyway, and you've been following them ever since." She moved to his side, not behind him, beside him, the way they'd stood for over 40 years. "Ready, Sergeant?" "Yes, ma'am." Beatrice took his hand. They walked through the house together, past the living room where the painting had sat glowing, past the kitchen table where the tax notice still lay, past decades of memories built into walls and floorboards. Isaiah stopped at the door, looked back. "Whatever happens today," he said, "we fought. We're still fighting." Beatrice squeezed his hand. "And we're not done yet." He nodded, opened the door. Morning light broke through heavy clouds. Snow covered everything. Streets, cars, rooftops. The world outside was white and cold. Isaiah locked the door behind them. The key turned with a solid click. They walked down the steps together, hand in hand, an old soldier and his wife moving into the storm. Isaiah opened Beatrice's door first, helped her in, closed it carefully. Then he climbed into the driver's seat, started the engine, let it warm. In the mirror, their house sat small and dark behind them, waiting. Tomorrow it might not be theirs anymore. But today, they were going to war. Isaiah pulled onto the street. The truck's headlights cut through white morning light. Beatrice's hand found his on the gear shift. Neither of them spoke. The road ahead was barely visible, but they drove forward anyway, together, the way they'd always done, the way soldiers do, 2 hours before the auction. Christie's auction house rose like a temple on Wilshire Boulevard, glass and marble, valet parking, a doorman in a long coat. Isaiah pulled into the public lot 2 blocks away, killed the engine. Through the windshield, the building gleamed. People in expensive coats moved through revolving doors, confident, belonging. Beatrice touched his hand. "You ready?" Isaiah looked down at his uniform, the ribbons on his chest, the cap in his lap. "Yes, ma'am." They stepped out into the cold. Snow had stopped, but the air still bit. Isaiah put on his cap, adjusted it. Beatrice straightened his collar one more time. They walked together toward the entrance. A couple passed them on the sidewalk. Designer bags. The woman glanced at Isaiah's uniform, then away quickly. Uncomfortable. Isaiah kept his eyes forward. The doorman opened the glass door, looked at Isaiah with uncertainty but said nothing. Inside, the lobby was all white marble and soft lighting. A curved staircase led to the second floor. People clustered in small groups. Champagne glasses, low voices, the rustle of auction catalogs. Isaiah and Beatrice stood near the entrance, out of place and knowing it. Isaiah showed his registration email to a staff member, who scanned it with a raised eyebrow but pointed them toward the stairs. They started up, Isaiah's hand on the railing, Beatrice beside him. Voices drifted from the second floor. Laughter, the clink of glasses. Then a voice cut through, sharp, familiar. "Well, this is unexpected." Isaiah looked up. Gwendolyn Pembroke stood at the top of the stairs. Fur collar, diamond earrings, another woman beside her. Similar wealth, similar age. Pembroke's eyes traveled over Isaiah's uniform. Her lips curved into something between a smile and a sneer. "Security here wears army dress now?" She turned to her companion. "How patriotic." The other woman laughed softly. Isaiah reached the top step, stood level with them. Pembroke blocked his path. Not obviously, just enough. "Or perhaps you're lost. The VA clinic is downtown." Her companion whispered something. More laughter. Isaiah looked at her. He saw the jewelry and the confidence, but he also saw the tightness around her eyes. "Mrs. Pembroke," Isaiah said quietly. His voice was steady, formal. "I believe we have something to discuss." Her smile faltered. "I have nothing to discuss with you." "About the flag case. The one you put on the curb, with the trash." Pembroke went very still. "I kept the flag case," Isaiah continued. "Couldn't leave it there. Seemed wrong to let a veteran's burial flag sit in the snow." Her companion looked between them, confused. The name on the plaque was Sergeant Arthur Pembroke, Korea, 1953. Isaiah met her eyes. "My father served there too." Pembroke's mouth opened. No sound came out. "My father came home," Isaiah said. "Sergeant Arthur didn't, but someone should have honored his flag. Someone should have kept it safe." He paused. Let the words settle. "I did that for him, for Sergeant Arthur. Because that's what you do for a fellow soldier." Pembroke's hand trembled on her purse. She looked around, suddenly terrified of being overheard. She'd been caught, not by police, but by truth. Isaiah stepped forward. Not aggressive, just forward. Pembroke stepped back. "The painting that was with that flag." Isaiah's voice was still quiet, still steady. "It's being auctioned today. Emergency acquisition. The museum filed to preserve it as cultural property." Pembroke's face went from pale to gray. "You can't." "I can. I did." Isaiah looked directly into her eyes. "You threw it away, ma'am. I saved it, and now it's going where it belongs." He moved past her, not rushing, not pushing, just walking. Beatrice followed. Behind them, Pembroke stood frozen. Her companion touched her arm, concerned. "Gwendolyn, are you all right?" Pembroke didn't answer. She stared at Isaiah's back, at the uniform, at the ribbons, at the man she'd called a thief walking into the auction hall with his head high. The man who'd saved her father's flag while she'd thrown it away. The man who'd found a masterpiece in her garbage. The man who was about to take everything from her. Not with anger, not with revenge, with dignity. Isaiah and Beatrice entered the viewing gallery. Rows of velvet seats faced a podium and a large screen. People milled about, studying their catalogs. They found seats in the back. Isaiah removed his cap, set it on his lap. Beatrice took his hand. "That was brave," she whispered. Isaiah shook his head. "That was necessary." On the screen at the front, images cycled through, previews of upcoming lots, sculptures, paintings, antiques. Then it appeared, Lot 42, Midnight in Harlem by Luther Brooks, 1925. The soldiers playing jazz, the tired, proud faces, the cobalt sky and golden light. Isaiah stared at it. Beatrice squeezed his hand tighter. In the doorway, Gwendolyn Pembroke appeared. Alone now. Her companion had left. She stood there, looking at the screen, at the painting she'd thrown away, at the fortune she'd lost through her own bitterness. Her hands shook. The auctioneer took the podium, checked his notes, smiled at the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We have an exceptional collection this morning. Isaiah sat very still, eyes forward, back straight, a soldier at attention, waiting for battle. 9 a.m., the auction begins. The auctioneer's voice filled the gallery, smooth, practiced. Lot 37, a signed Warhol lithograph, opening bid, 80,000. Paddles rose, numbers climbed, the gavel fell. Isaiah sat motionless, Beatrice's hand in his, each lot bringing them closer. Lot 38, Lot 39, Lot 40. Pembroke sat 3 rows ahead, shoulders rigid, tense. Lot 41 sold for 130,000. The auctioneer looked up, smiled. And now, ladies and gentlemen, something quite special. Lot 42. The screen changed. Midnight in Harlem filled the wall. The soldiers' faces, the instruments, golden light against cobalt night. The room went quiet. Luther Brooks, 1925, recently discovered through emergency acquisition, authenticated by the Metropolitan Museum. The auctioneer paused. This piece represents not just artistic merit, but cultural history. The Harlem Hellfighters returning home, a moment very nearly lost forever. Isaiah's throat tightened. We have telephone interest from the Metropolitan Museum. Opening bid, $500,000. Pembroke's head snapped back. She recognized it. The carved frame, the crack in the corner, the painting she'd thrown away. 500,000. Do I hear 550? Pembroke's hand shot up, paddle raised high. 550 from the lady in the 3rd row. The assistant on the phone spoke quietly. 600,000 from the museum. Pembroke didn't hesitate. 700,000. Her voice cracked, desperate. Murmurs spread through the crowd. 800,000 from the museum. Pembroke stood. 850,000. Isaiah watched her, saw what was happening. She wasn't bidding to own it. She was bidding to hide it, to bury her mistake. If the museum bought it, they'd tell the story of how it was found. Tell the story of a wealthy woman who threw away a masterpiece and falsely accused the man who saved it. 900,000 from the museum. Pembroke's voice rose. 950, people whispered. Phones came out. This wasn't normal bidding. This was panic. $1 million from the museum. The room erupted. Gasps. $1 million painting appearing from nowhere. Pembroke swayed. Her face was white. She looked back toward the door. A man in a suit shook his head. Subtle but clear. She'd hit her limit. 1 million. Fair warning to the floor. Pembroke opened her mouth. Nothing came out. 1,200,000 from the museum. The gavel hovered. Pembroke's paddle clattered to the floor. Going once, going twice. She collapsed into her seat, head in her hands. Sold to the Metropolitan Museum for $1,200,000. The gavel struck. The room exploded. Applause. Stunned laughter. Isaiah didn't move. He didn't look at the screen. didn't look at Pembroke crumbling ahead. He looked up, at the ceiling, at the space where light and shadows met. A single tear rolled down his cheek. Beatrice squeezed his hand. Isaiah's lips moved, barely audible. Mission accomplished. Around them, the auction continued. Lot 43. The auctioneer's voice smooth again, moving on. But Isaiah sat in the back row and let himself feel it. Not triumph, not revenge, relief. The painting was safe. The soldier's story would be told. Sergeant Arthur's legacy wouldn't end in a garbage truck. Elena appeared at their row, her face flushed. Mr. Patterson, after fees and taxes, approximately $700,000. Isaiah nodded. Couldn't speak yet. The house? Beatrice asked. Saved, with plenty left over. Beatrice closed her eyes, exhaled. Elena stood. I'll handle the paperwork, but Mr. Patterson, that was the bravest thing I've ever seen. She left them there. In the third row, Pembroke sat alone. Her companions had drifted away, drawn to other conversations, other people, fair-weather friends abandoning a sinking ship. She stared at the empty screen, where her father's legacy had glowed for 30 seconds before disappearing into museum archives. Safe, honored, beyond her reach forever. Isaiah watched her shoulders shake, saw her hand cover her face, and felt something he didn't expect. Pity. She'd lost today, lost money, lost face, lost the chance to hide her shame. But more than that, she'd lost her father twice, once to war, once to her own bitterness. Isaiah stood. Beatrice looked up, surprised. Where are you going? To end this, he said quietly. He walked down the aisle. His uniform drew eyes now. He stopped beside Pembroke's row. She didn't look up at first. Finally, she raised her head. Her eyes were red. You won, she whispered. Are you here to gloat? Isaiah shook his head. No, ma'am. I'm here to invite you to something. Her face crumpled. What? The museum's opening the exhibition in March. Your father's name will be in the program. Sergeant Arthur Pembroke, Korean War veteran. His story honored alongside the painting. Pembroke stared at him. I hope you'll come, Isaiah said simply. As his daughter. He didn't wait for a response. He walked back to Beatrice, took her hand. They left the auction house together. Outside, morning sun broke through clouds. Snow melted on sidewalks. Isaiah stopped on the steps, looked back at the building one more time. Then he looked at Beatrice. Let's go home. They walked to the truck. Home. Still theirs. Still standing. Still waiting. Christmas Eve. 6 p.m. The house was warm. Beatrice had been cooking since they got home. Ham, sweet potatoes, green beans. The smells filled every room. Isaiah sat at the kitchen table. The check from Christie's lay in front of him. $718,000. He'd called the county that afternoon, paid the tax bill. $15,400. The rest goes to the kids, he said. And the church food bank. Beatrice nodded. We keep what we need. The house was safe. Beatrice brought him coffee, sat down across from him. What are you thinking about? Isaiah touched the check. Her, Mrs. Pembroke, sitting there alone. Beatrice was quiet. You gave her grace, Isaiah. More than she deserved. Maybe that's the point. Grace isn't about deserving. A knock at the door. Isaiah opened it. Gwendolyn Pembroke stood on his porch. No fur coat now, just a simple wool jacket, no makeup covering the red around her eyes, just a woman, alone, broken. Mr. Patterson, may I speak with you? Isaiah stepped back. "Come in, ma'am." She entered hesitantly, saw Beatrice in the kitchen doorway. "Mrs. Patterson, I'm sorry to intrude." They sat, Pembroke on the couch, Isaiah in his chair, her hands twisted in her lap. "I came to apologize for calling you a thief, for the report, for how I treated you." Isaiah listened. "I was wrong, about all of it." Her voice cracked. "I threw them away because I was angry. Angry at him for dying. Angry at the war for taking him. Angry at myself for never knowing him." A tear rolled down her cheek. "But you saw it differently. You saw a hero. You saved his flag when his own daughter threw it away." She reached into her purse, pulled out an envelope. "I wanted you to have this." Inside, a check, $50,000. "For the false report, for trying to destroy your reputation." "No." Isaiah handed it back. "But, Mrs. Pembroke," his voice was gentle but firm, "I didn't save that flag for money. I saved it because it was right." She stared at him. Isaiah stood, walked to the mantel. The burial flag case sat there now. Beside it, his photograph in dress uniform. Isaiah picked up the flag case, brought it to her. "This is yours, ma'am. I was keeping it safe until you were ready." Pembroke's hands shook as she took it. She stared at her father's name. Sergeant Arthur Pembroke, 1928-1953. "I'm not ready," she whispered. "I'm still so angry at him for leaving. Then maybe it's time to stop being angry." Isaiah sat back down. "He didn't choose to die, ma'am. He chose to serve. There's a difference." Pembroke clutched the flag case to her chest, tears flowing freely now. "The museum exhibition opens in March," Isaiah said quietly. "Your father's story will be there, next to the painting. You should be there. Not because of me, because of him." Pembroke nodded. Couldn't speak. Beatrice appeared with tissues, set them gently on the table. Her hand briefly touched Pembroke's shoulder, comfort from one woman to another. When Pembroke left, she held the flag case like it was made of glass. Isaiah watched from the porch as she walked to her car. She turned back once, lifted her hand in a small wave. He waved back. Inside, Beatrice stood beside him. "You're a good man, Isaiah Patterson. Just doing what's right. That's what makes you good." They closed the door, turned back to their warm house, their home, still theirs, safe. Isaiah looked at the mantel, at his photograph beside the empty space where the flag case had been. And he smiled. "God doesn't make junk," he said softly. "He only makes masterpieces waiting to be found." Beatrice took his hand. "Even in garbage collectors?" "Especially in garbage collectors." Outside, snow began to fall, soft, gentle, covering the world in white. Inside, Isaiah and Beatrice sat down to Christmas Eve dinner. Together, home, at peace. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't in winning. It's in showing grace when you've earned the right to vengeance. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to remember. We're all masterpieces waiting to be seen. Subscribe to Wisdom and Soul for stories that matter. Merry Christmas, and God bless.